The Tolkien Road, Episode 72, The Lord of the Rings, The Great River. All right, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through the works and philosophy of J.R.R. Tolkien. On this episode, we continue through The Lord of the Rings with Book 2, Chapter 9, The Great River. Before we get started, why not hop on over to iTunes and leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback? It's a great way to show your support for the show and takes less than a minute. Thanks for listening and enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to the Tolkien Road. Greta?
John?
What in the world is going on?
What in the world is going on?
What in the world is going on?
I don't know where I should start with that one.
Yeah.
There seems to be a whole lot of stuff going on right now in the world.
It's a rhetorical question.
Oh.
It was meant to sound intimidating too. Like what in the world is like, you're in trouble.
What in the world is your problem,
What
child?
in the world's going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm not intimidated. I'll tell you that
Good.
much. How are you doing?
I only wanted you to be a little bit intimidated.
No, I'm not at all intimidated. You have to try harder next time.
Well.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that you weren't more intimidated.
Well, you gotta work on it.
Um,
Tougher than I look.
Episode 72.
72.
Book 2, Chapter 9 of The Lord of the Rings, The Great River.
River.
The Great River it is.
Yep.
The Anduin River.
'Tis great and mighty.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the Mississippi.
Kind of like my... it's funny you mention that because this, in a way, this chapter sort of reminded me of Huckleberry Finn.
Yes. Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Just being on the river,
right.
With all
this is definitely
adventures
darker
on the river.
than Huck Finn being on the river.
Well, Huck Finn is not like a lighthearted romp,
Well, no, but it also doesn't have like demons and...
That's true.
Balrogs and orcs.
Yeah, not unless we want to get totally meta and well, no, we're not going to go there. No. Anyway.
We would, Mark Twain would be rolling over in his grave.
I don't know. Mark Twain was kind of a weird dude.
Was he?
It's interesting to think, would Mark Twain have been a fan of Tolkien? I don't know. I think he kind of would have. I think it's not a, I don't want to say I think he would have been. I just think it's not a completely like off the wall sort of question because Twain could be both like realist and just completely come up with this the strangest sort of tales that you've ever heard, so
right.
I think it's possible that he would have liked I think it's possible that he would have really liked Tolkien, but, who knows?
Who knows? Too bad he didn't live longer.
Yeah, nice going.
Actually, he lived a long time. He just didn't live long enough to read The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's true.
Guess we'll never know.
Yeah, unfortunately. All right, so before we just get completely off track, so I messed up last episode too, but this time it was not with Mary Grace's haiku. This time it was with Rob Fangman's Chapter 8 haiku. So I need to read his haiku at the beginning. Sorry, Rob. What's funny is that Rob emailed me his, the haiku for this chapter and then the haiku for Chapter 10 earlier this week, and then he said, "Sorry, I guess I forgot to do a haiku for Chapter 8." And then I went back and found he actually done one. So
you're like, nope, Rob, my fault, not yours.
So fooled you, Rob. No, again, I think the same thing basically happened with what happened with
Mary Grace.
Mary Grace, yeah.
You get your stuff together, dude.
I do.
You're gonna lose your job.
I need to tell people email I need to come up with an email address for haiku. Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be a revolt.
Because I've got 10 different, everybody who submits haiku does it a different way right now.
Yeah, I know you have too many social media things
going
on.
I don't really have a lot of social media, but I have a lot of
internet connection.
Just different ways people can submit haiku.
Platforms.
Whatever.
Well, if you don't want me to be the head honcho, then I suggest you stop messing up.
You think you could do this job?
Fans might.
You want to edit this episode? You want to do the post-production?
You can do all that.
Oh, I see how it is.
I just get
Leave me to do the dirty work.
Exactly. Yes.
Fine.
You do the fun
You collect
part.
the haiku.
I only have 3 email addresses. I bet I could probably figure something out.
All right, let's read Rob's haiku. All right,
All right.
Rob's haiku for chapter 8. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
quite frankly,
okay.
I stopped caring what you were saying.
Yeah, whatever.
Just kidding.
You're just worried because you know that I could take your job. You don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's hear what Rob has to say.
All right, yeah, let's hear what Rob has to say. On chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
Which is Farewell to Lórien.
Right.
Peaceful golden woods, but the river flows away. Farewell, Lórien. Nice.
Beautiful.
I like it.
He really captures the,
Mm-hmm.
I think, the kind of regret and the sadness the company feels at having to depart.
Yeah, pretty much.
Blessed
Pretty much.
Lórien.
Nicely done, Rob.
Yes.
Good thing,
good job.
Rob already submitted haiku for the next 2 chapters, so
and you've already said that on the air, so no excuse.
I better not forget.
When you don't find them.
I better not forget.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably some guy out there that's like, it's been like 5 episodes and he keeps on submitting haiku and he's like, why don't they ever read my haiku?
Oh.
Sorry, that guy.
I hope that's not true.
I hope that's not true because I'd feel bad. And we'll read them all if we ever find them.
That's a true story.
For random that guy who may or may not exist.
Right.
Yeah. I think weird. Okay, so I was going to say something else. And I said out loud that I think weird. So, okay, so what?
You said out loud that you think weird?
Yeah. I said, just kind of randomly, I said, I think weird.
Oh,
I think weird.
I missed that. Okay.
All right. And then after the last episode, of one of the people who follows me on Twitter said, his name is Chris Magia Smith. I assume that's how you say his the first half of his last name. Maybe I'll just say Chris Magia Smythe, and that way I'll get his whole last name wrong.
Perfect.
Is that how you say that? Smith Smythe?
Go big or go home.
That's right. No, I think it's Chris Magia Smith on Twitter. Had a comment, and he said a really interesting comment. And I think I knew this once upon a time, but I've forgotten it. You remember that Gimli, of course, asked for 3 strands of Galadriel's hair.
No, he asks for 1, but she gives him 3.
Yeah, okay.
Get it right.
Details.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that in Unfinished Tales, in the chapter about Galadriel in Unfinished Tales, which we'll probably read at some point,
okay.
Fëanor requests a strand of Galadriel's hair and is denied.
Really?
So Fëanor, who of course is Galadriel's cousin, right? Because half cousin, because she's the daughter of Finarfin, and he's the son of let me get that right. No, it's his it's like his niece or half niece or something like that, because she's the daughter of Finarfin, and then Finarfin is his half brother, is Fëanor's half brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So she
they're related.
Yeah, so she had denied Fëanor's request for a strand of Galadriel's hair, but Gimli got 3.
How interesting.
Yeah.
And Gimli is not even of the same race.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's, I don't know, it's kind of cool to think about the significance of that. Maybe it has something to do with, maybe this was a gesture, like how Legolas and Gimli were starting to become friends, and it was kind of like healing this age-old rift between the elves and the dwarves.
Could be.
And maybe this, was a little gesture to that same effect.
Or could it have been that Galadriel was creeped out by the fact that her half-uncle was asking for her hair.
Oh, maybe.
Because I would be creeped out if one of my uncles asked for
it. But not a dwarf, not a random dwarf guy?
No, at least I'm not related to him.
I don't see why it has to be creepy if it's not creepy for it's either creepy for both or it's creepy. It's not
okay,
creepy
it's a little creepy for Gimli too, but it's a little more creepy for your uncle.
See, but I don't want to talk. I don't know. I don't want to talk about the creepy part because like that's not how Tolkien intended.
I know
it,
that's not how Tolkien can. I know, but it's still it's less usual. Like that relationship, like the niece uncle relationship is still there's a relationship there. No,
I'm just saying like I don't want this to go into that. Like this is not where Tolkien. This is not where this should go. You know what I'm saying?
So what do you think? What is that? So
it's the like her hair was beautiful. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Her hair was glorious and I should have brought, I get where you're coming from, and I think and this is what we talked about in that episode, right? And in the modern context, we immediately jump to, oh, that's creepy,
right?
Yeah. And I just think that's unfortunate. Like that's not that's not necessarily the way it has to be taken. You know what I'm saying? And
I think you're right. I don't think that's the way Tolkien meant for it.
Yeah, I think for Fëanor, he was like, this. Galadriel had like beautiful hair, and there was something associating it with. I think there's even somewhere in there, maybe in the same passage, where it talks about, like her hair has something to do with the fashioning of the Silmaril. Chris, if you know the reference I'm talking about here, help a brother out. But there was something like Fëanor was inspired to make the Silmarils, or partly inspired to make the Silmarils by the divine beauty of Galadriel's hair. You know what I'm saying? So it's more of like the divine beauty thing, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, like the otherworldliness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
the transcendent beauty. It's the transcendence of it, right? Okay. That's what this is all about.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe Galadriel could kind of see, maybe she had an idea of Fëanor's character and didn't want to be associated in that way with, maybe she just didn't want any part of what she suspected he might use it for.
Right.
Knowing, like, his history and what he, how he had shown himself to be in the past.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
She just didn't trust him.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to think about why he was denied, as you were saying, and Gimli wasn't.
There's something super, like, endearing about the dwarves, though. Like how they're short and hairy and, Cinderella.
Yeah.
Or Snow White, sorry.
No, not Snow White.
No, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh, like with the dwarves?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like, she's a
Snow White was a dwarf. And
no. I meant that she, a princess, enjoyed hanging out with the dwarves, right? So I'm just saying, I think there is something endearing about dwarf, even though they can be grumpy.
Yeah. We'll come back to this topic when we talk about, when we do...
that is a really interesting
point, chapter.
Though. I didn't know that about Fëanor.
Yeah. Galadriel is fascinating, as is Fëanor, of course.
Yep.
Galadriel is fascinating as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's kind of like a female Gandalf character.
In a way.
Yeah.
All right, so as we said, we are journeying downriver. Last chapter, they left Lórien, and were already in their boats.
Yep.
And they were heading down the Anduin, which, like you said, in a way is like what the Mississippi is to to North America. The Anduin is like to Middle Earth, right? To this particular region of Middle Earth that kind of runs right through, and it's a huge river,
right?
And even I grew up on the Ohio River, so I have some sense of like a big river, but the Ohio I don't think is, at least where I lived on it. I mean, it was fairly wide, but it wasn't as wide. It wasn't quite a mile wide, and it's not as wide as like the Mississippi is at certain parts, right? And I get the impression that the Anduin is more like Mississippi wide, like just
vast
big,
and
and I was a couple of weeks ago. I had the opportunity to go canoeing on the little river where we live.
Harpeth.
Yeah, and it was just so interesting to be on the river, even though it's not a big river. But you get this sense of like how there's just this whole world around this river, So anyway, that was swirling through my head as we were reading this, just to set the context of it.
I feel a little bit like an intruder, I think. Like you're almost disrupting a balance or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they do. They feel that this is not a friendly region, and we hear at one point that in Sam's mind, that he feels like they're naked out there,
right.
like this, that they're
especially as the trees begin to fall away, right? Because when they start, it's more wooded and lush, and then as they continue down, the landscape begins to change. And there's fewer and fewer trees and more rocks, and it becomes more barren. So they probably do feel like they're just kind of like sitting ducks, kind of out in the open.
Right, and it is cold too because it's the winter.
Right, it's winter, yes.
But he says so. It says Sam felt that the company was too naked, afloat in little open boats in the midst of shelterless lands and on a river that was the frontier of war. So that's where they are. It's not like they're they really, Lórien was like the last little respite they have before they really start to plow into the heart of their danger. It's like they haven't been through enough already. Now they're really getting into it,
right?
And they're almost just taking it one day at a time. So they don't know where they're going to. They know they're going to go basically to the falls of Raros, to this great waterfall,
right.
Several miles south, several days journey south, but they don't know where they're going to go from there.
Right.
They don't really know if they're going to go to Minas Tirith or if they're going to try and just go straight to Mordor or what the deal is. And so there's still this decision to be made.
Right. They know it's coming, but they're relieved that it hasn't come yet.
And so as if all this kind of just wide open region feeling naked and exposed wasn't enough, then you have Sam dream, or seem to dream, that he sees a log with eyes.
Right.
So he wakes up and he tells Frodo, he said, "I had a funny dream an hour or two before we stopped, Mr. Frodo. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. Funny it was, anyway." "Well, what was it?" said Frodo, knowing that Sam would not settle down until he had told his tale, whatever it was. "I haven't seen or thought of anything to make me smile since we left Lórien." "It wasn't funny that way, Mr. Frodo. It was queer. All wrong if it wasn't a dream. And you had best hear it. It was like this. I saw a log with eyes." "The log's all right," said Frodo. "There are many in the river, but leave out the eyes." "That I won't," said Sam. "'Twas the eyes as made me sit up, so to speak. I saw what I took to be a log floating along in the half-light behind Gimli's boat, but I didn't give much heed to it. Then it seemed as if the log was slowly catching up, and that was peculiar, as you might say, seeing as we were all floating on the stream together. Just then I saw the eyes, two pale sort of points, shiny like on a hump at the near end of the log. What's more, it wasn't a log, for it had paddle feet, like a swan's almost, only they seemed bigger, and kept digging in and out of the water." That was when I sat right up and rubbed my eyes, meaning to give a shout, if it was still there when I rubbed the drowse out of my head. For the whatever it was coming along fast now and getting close behind Gimli. But whether those two lamps spotted me moving and staring, or whether I came to my senses, I don't know. When I looked again, it wasn't there. Yet I think I caught a glimpse with the tail of my eye, as the saying is, of something dark shooting under the shadow of the bank. I couldn't see no more eyes, though. I said to myself, "Dreaming again, Sam Gamgee," I said, and I said no more just then. But I've been thinking since, and now I'm not so sure. What do you make of it, Mr. Frodo? "I should make nothing of it but a log in the dusk and sleep in your eyes, Sam, if this was the first time that those eyes had been seen. But it isn't. I saw them back north before we reached Lórien." So they're starting to put two and two together.
Yep.
And realize that they have a follower, and it's not long until they share all of this. They share it with each other, and then in the middle of the night they decide they're going to keep watch. One of them is going to keep watch at a time. Right. Frodo and Sam, and then in the middle of the night, the log with eyes attacks, or
this is just
kind of
me
sort of attacks.
Probably not having a great memory, but
yeah,
Sam is the first to actually call this person or this thing Gollum. How would
Sam? Oh.
Well, I mean, like, in this particular thing when they're talking about it. Because Sam never said... I mean, Frodo never mentioned his Gollum. Neither does Aragorn. Neither does Gandalf. So I'm just wondering, how does Sam know about Gollum? Does he know from Bilbo's tales?
Well, you've got Gandalf's tales, and remember that way back at the beginning of when Gandalf is telling the whole story, he would know it partly from Bilbo's tales, probably, but when they're telling, Gollum has come up at different times, right?
He has,
like,
okay.
And there's been a couple of times where they've been talking a lot about him, and Sam has been eavesdropping, right? Like, remember, it was back in the Shire when Frodo and Gandalf are talking about the whole saga of the ring, and Sam's outside the window listening.
Right.
And then at the Council of Elrond, you know, he's sitting afar off.
Yes.
He's kind of sitting in the bushes listening as well, right?
Got it. Okay.
So he knows a lot about Gollum.
Okay.
And then, Gollum appears in the middle of the night. Frodo was just yielding to the temptation to lie down again when a dark shape, hardly visible, floated close to one of the moored boats. A long, whitish hand could be dimly seen as it shot out and grabbed the gunwale. Two pale lamp-like eyes shone coldly as they peered inside, and then they lifted and gazed up at Frodo on the eyot. They were not more than a yard or two away, and Frodo heard the soft hiss of intaken breath. He stood up, drawing Sting from its sheath, and faced the eyes. Immediately their light was shut off. There was another hiss and a splash, and the dark log shape shot away downstream into the night. Aragorn stirred in his sleep, turned over, and sat up. "What is it?" he whispered, springing up and coming to Frodo. "I felt something in my sleep. Why have you drawn your sword?" "Gollum," answered Frodo, "or at least, so I guess." And it turns out Aragorn has been kind of aware that Gollum has been following them as well.
Way to share information, guys. Come
on. But this seems to at least, Gollum is obviously feeling a little emboldened, like he maybe would be able to sneak up on them and steal the ring. But this little incident kind of seems to make Gollum go away for a little while.
Yes.
So we don't really hear too much more about Gollum during the rest of this chapter.
Right.
The next spot on the journey, the next significant thing is that they seem to see an eagle in the sky. They aren't really sure that that's what it is. They see lots of birds kind of circling against the pale sky. And then they see a great bird high and far off, now wheeling, now flying on slowly southwards. And they wonder if it's an eagle, and then Legolas says, "Yes, it is an eagle, a hunting eagle. I wonder what that forebodes. It is far from the mountains. We will not start until it is fully dark."
So are there eagles? We've talked about this, and you also, I know, mention it in your book about eagles, how they are, they're used often by Tolkien as a providential rescuer. Right. Are there eagles that work for the dark side as well?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not aware of any. And it's possible. I mean, I was thinking about this in light of what happens, just a little bit later in the chapter. It's possible that is it possible that Legolas, who's able to, has this incredible vision, is wrong, right? That this isn't really an eagle. That this is in fact that, that beast that comes, or maybe this is some kind of bird that looks like an eagle but is not really an eagle and is bad.
Okay.
But the eagles don't really have. The eagles, if they have any allegiance, it's to Manwë, right? But there could be bad eagles,
right? Okay.
I mean, it's possible there's bad eagles too.
Okay.
Just as some of the Maiar were seduced by Melkor and Sauron.
Yeah.
Other people are as well, right?
Yeah.
This could be
he could have corrected
a bad eagle
for his own purpose. Yeah. Okay.
They see this eagle, and that's all that's kind of made of that. And the next point they hit is Sarn Gabier, which is these rapids, these really nasty rapids on the river. And so they decide they have to be really careful here. They have to turn back. And even as they're doing so, they're attacked by orcs from the from the eastern bank.
Right.
Yeah, the eastern bank, right? Mm-hmm. Where is that? I didn't underline it. But I think that's right.
I'm pretty sure that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, the eastern shore.
Yeah.
Sam thought he could glimpse black figures running to and fro upon the long shingle banks that lay under the eastern shore. They seemed very near. So this is the Mordor side, the Mirkwood Mordor side. Irk, said Legolas, falling into his own tongue. Orcs, cried Gimli. And so they're being, attacked with arrows as they're going, as they're trying to fight against the rapids here.
Right.
And
this just seems like double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to not drown in the rapids while being shot at.
Right. By
poison orc arrows.
Right. Well, it almost makes you think that it was an ambush. They really like.
Well, even Sam says to Frodo, he says, "Gollum's doing." I'll be
down.
Yeah,
and I kind of wonder if that's if it's really true because Gollum doesn't seem to want.
He doesn't seem to have an allegiance to one to.
No.
Like, he doesn't work for, the bad people.
Absolutely not. And
he just wants it for himself.
And he doesn't like the orcs either.
Right. He's scared of them.
He doesn't want to get caught by anybody. The orcs would probably.
But how else would they know? You think from that eagle?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just other spies.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where who knows what the backstory of the eagle was and how the orcs found them and all that kind of thing. I'm sure Tolkien had an idea of what it was in his mind.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it would be interesting to read the commentary on, from the history of Middle Earth on this area and see if there's any more info about that. And even as they are just warding off the attack, they're attacked by this black, kind of giant black bird. And at this, Legolas cries out, "Elbereth Gilthoniel," which is an invocation of Varda,
right?
Lady of the Stars, right? Even as he did so, a dark shape, like a cloud and yet not a cloud, for it moved far more swiftly, came out of the blackness in the south and sped towards the company, blotting out all light as it approached. Soon it appeared as a great winged creature, blacker than the pits in the night. Fierce voices rose up to greet it from across the water. Frodo felt a sudden chill running through him and clutching at his heart. There was a deadly cold, like the memory of an old wound in his shoulder. He crouched down as if to hide. Suddenly the great bow of Lórien sung. Shrill went the arrow from the elven string. Frodo looked up. Almost above him, the winged shape swerved. There was a harsh, croaking scream as it fell out of the air, vanishing down into the gloom of the eastern shore. The sky was clean again. There was a tumult of many voices far away, cursing and wailing in the darkness, and then silence. Neither shaft nor cry came again from the east that night. So Legolas takes out this, this giant, nasty,
evil spirit kind of
bird, whatever it was. It may have been one of the beasts that the Nazgul eventually, are riding. I think that's probably the consensus on what it actually was.
Okay.
But there's no indication that there was actually one of the riders riding it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
One of the black riders riding it. Yeah. So moving along.
That was exciting.
Flowing down the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That is a good shot.
That's
Nice little scene of Legolas. So there's they're in the clear a bit. They head back upstream a little bit and they find a small shallow bay and they're able to get out of there for a little while. And so they get out of the water and take a little break. Or they go into a little bay that's kind of not flowing down, not flowing with the rest of the river. So they're able to take a little break on the western shore.
Right.
Yeah. So they have this little conversation about how long they spent in Lórien, which I thought was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, had to do with the moon.
Yeah.
Right? Like Sam was confused about the moon phase. Because he's like, wait, maybe I thought, it was a sliver again, right? Which he thought it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Right? But then he realizes that, or someone explains to him that time is different.
Right.
In Lórien.
Right.
Right? It goes slow and fast.
Yeah, well, and it's not necessarily, Legolas says, time does not tarry ever, but change and growth is not in all things and places alike. For the elves, the world moves, and it moves both very, very swift and very slow. Swift because they themselves change little, and all else fleets by. It is a grief to them. Slow because they do not count the running years, not for themselves. The passing seasons are but ripples, ever repeated in the long, long stream. Yet beneath the sun, all things must wear to an end at last. And Frodo says, but the wearing is slow in Lórien. The power of the lady is on it. Rich are the hours, though short they seem, in Caras Galadriel, where Galadriel wields the elven ring.
Why is Aragorn's... I feel like Aragorn kind of scolds him.
Yeah, he does.
He says that.
Because he doesn't want him to mention the ring outside of there.
Okay.
The Galadriel's ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interesting phenomenon. It seems like they were probably, my take on it is they were there for a month, but it didn't seem that long to them. It's interesting to think about different places that you may or may not have been where it seems like time moves both fast and slow. Like things just kind of slow down, but at the same time, when they're done, they seem to have flown by.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
I don't have much more, I don't have much more to say on that, but
it was an interesting exchange, though, yeah.
It's definitely interesting to think about why you might have that experience of a place, what it is about that place that you have that.
What is it about you in that place?
Yeah, true. Just being at peace.
Yeah.
Being at peace goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
Alrighty.
And speaking of being at peace, they have a silent night after that, don't they? Nothing really happens. Mm-hmm. When they wake up and then it's foggy.
It is foggy.
Which is kind of a gift. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of helps hide them.
Right. But at the same time, as it is foggy about them, so now Boromir starts to kind of fog things up for them. And because he's starting to insist that, they should make for Minas Tirith.
Well, we didn't mention that earlier in this chapter. This may be kind of a moot point, but isn't it earlier in this chapter where they talk about Boromir and how he's like acting all weird and stuff, and he's making Merry and Pippin uneasy because he's like keeps like mumbling to himself and staring at Frodo and biting his nails. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it says on page 373 of mine.
Different book.
Okay.
Yeah, different version.
Well, anyway, it's pretty early in the chapter.
Yeah, it is.
It says, Merry and Pippin in the middle boat were ill at ease, for Boromir sat muttering to himself, sometimes biting his nails as if some restlessness or doubt consumed him, sometimes seizing a paddle and driving the boat close behind Aragorn's. Mm-hmm. Then Pippin, who sat in the bow looking back, caught a queer gleam in his eye as he peered forward, gazing at Frodo. Sam had long ago made up his mind that though boats were maybe not as dangerous as he had been brought up to believe, they were far more uncomfortable than ever he had imagined. So yeah. And Boromir's been up to this kind of thing for a while, right?
Yeah, he has been.
He's been trying to steer them in the direction he wants to go.
Right. He's kind of trying to manipulate things.
Yeah.
The way he wants them to be.
Yeah, and you get this sense that with Gandalf, and we talked about this, I think, maybe last chapter, but you get this sense with Gandalf out of the picture, he feels a little more free to push the envelope and try to influence Aragorn in the way he wants to.
Right.
Aragorn says, it will be hard to find the path unless the fog lifts a little later. And we must find the path if we are to pass Sarn Gaebir and come to the Amon Will. Boromir says, I do not see why we should pass the rapids or follow the river any further. If the Amon Will lies before us, then we can abandon these cockle-boats and strive westward and southward until we come to the Entwash and cross into my own land. We can if we are making for Minas Tirith, said Aragorn, but that is not yet agreed, and such a course may be more perilous than it sounds. The vale of Entwash is flat and finny, and fog is a deadly peril there for those on foot and laden. I would not abandon our boats until we must. The river is at least a path that cannot be missed. But the enemy holds the eastern bank, objected Boromir, and even if we pass the gates of Argonath, and come unmolested to the Tendrock, what will you do then? Leap down the falls and land in the marshes? So they go back and forth, and Boromir eventually says, "Okay, we'll continue to do it your way," and they continue on from there. And we have this little bit from Aragorn where he says, "Peril lies ahead on every southward road. Wait for us one day. If we do not return in that time, you will know that evil has indeed befallen us." So Aragorn and Legolas go to kind of scout things out in front of them, and they return, and things seem to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not even gone that long.
Right.
They're only gone a few hours.
Yep. All right. So some more traveling down the river, which, and I feel kind of funny, but I mean that's really this chapter is just traveling down the river, right?
It is.
It's making your way down the mighty Anduin, and then they come to this great, magnificent these magnificent statues, the Argonath, the pillars of the kings, and these are these giant sentinels of Numenor. This is done really well in the movies, by the way, the picture of them, because it's based on the I forget the artist. I can't remember exactly the artist who it was based on, but these giant statues are done probably, I mean, just exactly as I'd probably envision them.
Yeah.
I did find, I forgot to look this up, but I did find Aragorn's comment about where he says, "Fear not, long have I desired to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion, my sires of old." Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that these statues are supposed to be Isildur and Anarion.
Yeah, they are.
Who
They say that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that how we're supposed? Is that how you read it? That's who they are.
Well, it says that that's who they are.
Okay. It doesn't say exactly that's who they are.
It's...
Well, he says, "Long have I desired to look upon the likenesses of Isildur and Anarion."
Oh, yeah. So I just assumed that's who they were. I guess it didn't come right out and say it. You're right, but I just assumed that's who they were.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess it is. I don't know. I didn't know if he meant like just the likeness in terms of, these ancient kings and what they would have been like, or if he indeed meant that they were fashioned after.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
These ancestors of his.
Right.
And so there's also this interesting comment that in the eyes of Frodo, Aragorn looks like a king returning from exile to his own land at this point. Mm-hmm. And his dark hair was blowing in the wind and a light was in his eyes.
Yes.
And even now, Aragorn says, "Would that Gandalf were here. How my heart yearns for Minas Anor and the walls of my own city. Mm-hmm. But whither now shall I go?" So he's still indecisive. He still doesn't know exactly where he's supposed to go. Now, Minas Anor, for those wondering, is Minas Tirith, and Minas Anor is the name of. So there were basically two cities. There's actually three cities that are kind of lined up on an east to west axis. There's Osgiliath, which is on the river. Right. There's Minas, what we call Minas Tirith, and then there's Minas Ithil. Minas Ithil is at the foot of the mountains of Mordor on the other side, but it's been taken over by the bad guys. Now it's Minas Morgul, right? Okay. We'll get into this more later, but then Minas Anor is now called Minas Tirith, and that's the one. That's the White City, right?
Okay.
Where it's the Tower of Watch now, so that's why it's called Minas Tirith.
Right.
Minas Anor is the Tower of the Sun, because it would see the sun rising in the east, so the rising of the sun would be upon it. And Minas Anor, or Minas Ithil, I think, is the Tower of the Moon, because it would see the moon.
Got it. Rising.
Yeah, I think rising, but anyway, that's the idea. So one of them is the sun, one of them is the moon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then they arrive at the falls, and it's been 10 days, and at that point, the last stage of the quest was before them.
Yeah.
So.
You made good progress.
Yeah. Did I skip over anything that you thought significant in this chapter?
No, I think you got it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I don't know how you felt about this chapter. I mean, it's probably one of my less favorite chapters in the whole book.
Yeah.
I prefer the chapters where they tell long stories and they just kind of go on about the history of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. You were.
I mean, how did you feel about this chapter?
I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
I really I liked the balance kind of between just the rolling down the river and then the different exciting things that happened with Gollum, and then the attack of the orcs and the conversations. I thought it had good balance.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I was able to read it. It held my attention.
Nice.
And so there's enough going on to keep me interested.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's haiku time.
It is haiku time. Let's get down. Get your groove on, people. Oh yeah. If that doesn't get you in the mood for haiku, I don't know what will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. So, well, it sounds like you're in the mood for haiku. So why don't you go first?
I was first last time.
Okay, I'll go first.
You go first.
I will set the stage for awesomeness.
All right. Set that bar high.
Leaving Lórien, bare to peril, fellowship flowing to its fall.
Oh. Oh. You have a bit of a foreshadowing to the next chapter, don't you?
That's right.
I like the alliteration.
Mm-hmm.
That's very nice. Can you read it one more time?
Leaving Lórien, bare to peril, fellowship flowing to its fall.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I
like the double meaning on fall?
I do.
There.
I do. I didn't catch it until you said it, but now I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I was pretty proud of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I was pretty happy with that.
I'm impressed.
All right, let's hear yours.
Impressed. All right, here's mine. Weary, watched, found, betrayed by slippery foe, released by elven bow.
Nice.
I didn't even realize that I had foe and bow in there that rhymed, so that was kind of cool.
This is true because it rhymes.
Oh, this is true.
We know this is true because it rhymes.
Because it rhymes.
That's right. Good job.
Of course, I realize now that in that when I wrote that haiku, it was obviously before we discussed the chapter, I had just assumed Gollum had been the one to...
Oh. Well, maybe he would. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying...
Okay, good. So my haiku is still legit?
Sure.
Is it legit enough not to quit?
If it's legit to you, then it's legit enough for MC Hammer.
Then I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
All right.
All right, moving on.
All right, Mary Grace.
Mary Grace.
As usual, does, kind of does a little bit better than everybody else. All right. She gives 2. Everybody else gives 1.
Oh, right. Yes.
And actually, well, I will say that both Mary Grace and Rob both gave 2 this time.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay. Rock on.
Good stuff, guys. All right, so Mary Grace, here we go. Her first haiku. Gollum creeps behind, ever drawn to the precious, log with glooming eyes.
Ever drawn to the precious?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Nice. I like I like her use of glooming in that way because I've never heard it used that way. Glooming.
Oh, I thought you said glowing.
No, glooming eyes. Yeah.
Is that like the verb form of gloomy?
I guess so. I mean,
no,
yeah.
It wouldn't be a verb. It'd be still an adjective. It's a form of gloomy?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, adjective.
Oh.
It would be a gerund, right? Like, isn't that what it is after it ends with an ing? It's a...
I don't know. You're the English major.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a... Okay, yeah, why'd you have to say it on the air? I'm bad with that kind of stuff. All it means is I'm good at BSing in papers.
That's probably true. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yep. Good stuff, Mary Grace. All right, number 2.
As always.
A shot in the dark. The bow of Legolas sang. An enemy felled.
She and I were kind of like on the same wavelength for that one. I like it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Well, the ladies love Legolas. Ladies love Legolas.
Love. You know? Come on, peeps.
All right. Josh, here we go. Paths to be taken. By water and land do they fly. With ring in hand. Nice.
That's good.
Nice.
That was Josh's?
Yes. Nicely done, Josh.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I hope Josh had a good time in
yeah, Greece. I was wondering. I was actually wondering if he sent that one from Greece, but probably not. He's probably back by now.
Back probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe he sent one of his other ones from Greece, though.
Yeah. Maybe.
Huh.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, let me know what you thought of that new Star Wars trailer, too. I thought it looked pretty cool. The Rogue One that we watched the other night.
I was completely confused by it, but then you explained it to me.
I explained it all to you. It's the first Death Star. Takes place before the first Death Star, Episode 4, A New Hope, which is really Star Wars.
You need your,
Yeah.
Yeah, you need your... You have a good nerd voice.
I'm going to draw and put it on a whiteboard for you. Map it all out.
Yeah, with arrows and timelines and...
Maybe we'll start doing a little mini podcast within the main podcast on Star Wars stuff just to catch you up on Lord of the Rings.
That's okay. What?
It might be necessary.
To just catch me up on
I'm not just to catch you up on the whole where Star Wars is since Star Wars is becoming.
I don't care that much.
Well, you need to care.
I got other interests.
Yeah. All right, Rob.
Rob.
Quit distracting me from Rob's haiku.
I'm not. You're the one
it's all your fault I missed him last time.
You. Yeah, because you won't let me handle your haikus, that's why. Alright. Rob.
Okay. Alright, so here's the thing. One of these is from the perspective of Aragorn, and one is from the perspective of Boromir. Okay?
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Alright. Number 1. Uneasy journey, sailing on an endless stream. Evil approaches.
Okay.
Yeah. And then number 2. Upon a swift stream, Isildur's heir returning through the gate of kings.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the first one is Boromir and the second one is Aragorn.
Yeah, because he's Isildur's...
Isildur.
What?
Isildur.
Isildur's heir.
Right.
Yeah, I like it.
Nicely done, Rob.
Way to overachieve, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Make us all look bad.
Yeah, well, except for Mary Grace.
Except for Mary Grace.
Yeah, the rest of us.
The rest of us are slackers.
Yeah. Next time they're...
But mine rhymed.
What's that?
Mine rhymed.
First person to do 3 on one episode wins. Just saying.
Oh, you're laying down the gauntlet? Is that how it's going to go?
Really don't do that. Yeah.
That'll take way
2
too
is
long.
awesome. 2 is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're inspired to do 3 and you want to do it, I'm just saying this is not a competition.
It's not a competition.
It's not.
Mm-mm.
Except
There's no awards.
Except we are going to award the greatest haiku of the episode.
You said that right after I said there are no awards.
Just kidding. It's not a competition, except it is. All right, kids, look. It's not about winning. It's about playing your very best. Now let's go out there and win. Because that's what we all want to do.
Because winning is fun.
That's right.
Losing is not.
Losing's not.
But I think everybody won.
Yeah.
This time around.
Yeah. We're all winners, guys. We all get participation trophies.
Yep.
Good job, everyone.
Way to go.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for...
The Fellowship of the Haiku.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. I think we're done. So next episode, Book 2, Chapter 10. And you do have a little bit extra time if you want to get haiku in for that one. I keep on having this intention to record 2 episodes at once, and we never quite make that happen. So if you want to get it in for Book 2, Chapter 10, try to get it in by Wednesday. What would Wednesday be? The 17th? Yeah, the 17th. Yeah, try to get it in by Wednesday the 17th.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, please do.
Right on.
And thank you to everyone who sent ones in for this episode.
Yeah, right on.
It makes everything so much more fun and interesting. Yeah.
All right, Greta. Any other positive vibes you wanna send out into the world?
I'm just full of them.
Yeah.
All the time.
It got real quiet after you said I'm just full of them.
Never ends. They're always coming.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Those positive vibes are coming your way.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and we will talk at you next time.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Bye, y'all.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On our next episode, we'll be continuing our discussion of Lord of the Rings with Book 2, Chapter 10, The Breaking of the Fellowship. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.